What we're going to do now is take a look at what God has to say. Ephesians chapter 5. I want to read through the whole section, and I had it up here on the screen, but it's broken up on your sheets so that we can work through it piece by piece. So just kind of follow along. You can see the verses are all labeled there. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. The husband is the head of the wife, as Christ the head of the church, his body of which he is the Savior. As the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Backside. To make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Middle of the page. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body just as Christ does the church. We are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So there you have the whole of it. Now let's go back to the other side, and we're going to work through part by part. And this is where you're going to begin putting a little bit of the work into it. No. All right, so the first part there is submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. One of the probably most misunderstood words in this section is submit. And the women get really upset because it's again said to them in the next verse. But before verse 22 says, wives submit, Paul says to each of the parties, husband and wife, submit to one another. The word does not mean obey. It means a little bit more than that. But I'm going to let you wrestle with that. And the question there is, how does this verse define the marriage relationship? See if you can put that into your own words. And here I'm going to encourage you to brainstorm a little bit with the guy next to you or behind you and just talk it through a little bit. And in the meantime, hopefully I'll get my computer set up again. All right? So how does submit to one another define your marriage relationship? All right, I won't ever force anybody to share, but anybody have an idea? What does submit to one another have to do with your marriage? What do you think? Okay, dual responsibility, right? It's never one side versus the other. It's really always both at the same time. Good. Anything else?
Just always putting each other first.
Okay, putting the other first. Have you guys all learned the acronym JOY? Who comes first, actually? Jesus comes first, and then others, and then self. In fact, when I do a pre-marriage workshop, I often draw a triangle, and I try to show, it's hard to maybe do this with my hands, but the closer the husband is to the wife or to God in the triangle, the closer he will always be to his wife, regardless of how far away the wife is. But the closer both are to Christ, if they're both out here, the closer they get to each other. So it always goes two ways, right? So putting the other first.